Hello, welcome to Kandid Konversations. I'm Jehan Ara, and I am so thrilled to have with me today Sana Mir. And who doesn't know Sana Mir? I mean, if in Pakistan, anybody associated with cricket, we already know. And somebody like Sana, who's been, amazing in terms of women's cricket, and now as a commentator, we don't have to introduce her. If you have to, then I think you guys should leave the country because cricket and Pakistan go together. Hi, Sana. Thanks so much for coming.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So I wanted to, just have a conversation with you about your journey. Why did you get into cricket? How early did you get into cricket? And what drove you to it?
I don't know why. I think the only thing is I fell in love with the game very early on. My brother, who's 9 years older to me, he used to play on the streets and I used to play with him. My sister is 6 years older, and whenever on Eid or other festivities, my female cousins would get together. They would be indoors. I was always outdoor with my male cousins and my brother playing cricket. So I think that's how I just started getting into cricket. And then mostly on the streets with the tape tennis ball, I used to play mostly. Whenever I would come back from school, I would just do my homework quickly and then just off onto the streets to play cricket, and I've made a lot of friends.
Which city was this in?
So it kept changing. My first cricket experience, I would say, I think I hold the bat for the first time when I was 3 or 4. It was in Gilgit.
That is early.
It was Gilgit, but I didn't started playing it, but I remember vividly the memory of holding a bat. That was Gilgit. My father was in the army, so we moved around. Then in Pindi, Chaklala Scheme 3, the streets of Chaklala Scheme 3, I played a lot of cricket. Then we moved to Gujranwala for a year, and there I played. And then most of my cricket I played in Texila, Kent.
Okay. And no resistance from the family? What the hell are you doing? You're a girl. Why are you playing cricket on the streets?
Only when I turned, I think, 14, 15, when they started saying, okay, now you're growing up. Because, in neighborhoods, people then start saying, oh, she's getting big and she's still playing with the boys. So at that point, for a little while, I did get that resistance, I would say. And at one point, I stopped playing. I stopped for 4 years, from grade 8th to second year. I didn't play cricket. I played other sports. I participated in tennis, swimming, basketball, whatever I could get my hands to. But for 4 years, I did leave cricket.
Okay. And when did your professional career as a cricketer actually begin?
2005, I was turning 19, 18 and a half or 19. And it was an Asia Cup. India, Sri Lanka, they were coming to Pakistan. And a year before that, there were trials being held. I got selected first for the PWCA, which was under Shaiza Khan and Sharmeen Khan. And then PCB held trials. I gave trials there also, and I got selected there also. So then that's how my journey started into cricket.
Okay. And did you find that amateur cricket must have been fun because you did what you pleased, that professional cricket held you back a little bit? Maybe it wasn't as much fun to begin with until you sort of made a name for yourself and controlled it a little bit yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think initially we were all very passionate just to have that star on our chest that, okay, as girls, as women, we can represent our country. I think that was the biggest dream initially. And the first few years, I think we just kind of were high on that yes, we are representing Pakistan. But then people would ask, so what do you do? And I would say, well, I play cricket for Pakistan. But what else do you do? So it was not a big thing for them back then.
Nobody asked Wasim Akram that or Babar Azam for that.
So we used to get that a lot. And then till 2011, we didn't have any contracts. So we were playing pro bono for 6 years for Pakistan.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I think the initial journey, it was more than less than $3 a day that we would get only when we were in camps. And that is for the first 6 years of my career. And
nobody
during
ejected? None of the women cricketers ejected?
the first time I got a check of 30,000, and I was looking at PCB and I was looking at the check and I said, they are fools because they are making my dream come true and paying me for it. so that was the mentality I also came in, because at that point, when I grew up, there was only one other girl who used to play cricket with me on the street, and she would not be very regular. So thinking that there would be like 20, 15 girls in Pakistan, I'll find them and we'll make a team, was something I never thought would happen. So initially we were high on that okay, yes, we can do this for Pakistan. But slowly, gradually, when we got the awareness, then we started pushing PCB. I was the first one to push them really hard. I think we got the first contracts under PCB 2011 after we won a gold medal in 2010. And that is how we started pushing.
And I think at that time, probably the men's team weren't doing so well.
Yeah, men's team got into the big scandal of spot fixing and match fixing in 2009, and wherever we used to go, that would be the only question from us. It was very, very hard time for us also, because we were representing Pakistan,
right.
And on all international conferences, that would all international press conferences, that was the only question we were asked, so it was very, very important for us also to do something that can put that behind. And thank God that we were able to go to the Asian Games and we won that gold medal. It was after 8 years. Pakistan participated in almost 50 different sports in Asian Games. And it was after 8 years that we, in women's cricket, won that medal. And I think that is the time when the whole of Pakistan started owning the women's team.
Yeah, until then, nobody was talking about the women's team.
Yeah, nobody was talking about them. We didn't have any contracts. I left NUST, my engineering degree, to be in cricket. So, I mean, all those things were something people thought I was just doing it for no reason. But after 2011, it all started making sense to everyone else and to us also. And by 2012, we became the first team, men or women, to beat India in the World Cup.
Wow.
So
that must have been a big moment.
Yeah,
it doesn't know anything to do with India. It has to be.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for 50 years, the contest between men's cricket team, we were not able to cross that line in a World Cup. In bilateral series, we were able to do that. So that was a huge, huge moment. Another time after 2010, so the build-up of women's cricket, that victory really helped us. And then again, the whole nation got behind us. And I think that was a big moment in our career.
And what's the relationship been like between the men's team and the women's team? Is there any sort of friendship, any sort of mentoring, any respect for the fact that the women's team is playing good cricket? Or
I think in the
do
last...
they just ignore you and they're the heroes?
In the last 2 years, I think it's growing a little bit. But unfortunately, before that, there was hardly any interaction. Even if you were in the gym, it was just like, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam, and that would be it. And that I do feel that we missed out a lot, because we were all starting. 9 of us were making a debut in the first team I played in. So we didn't have a lot of senior players who would guide us, who would mentor us. And because of that, even in ICC, I pushed for having a mentorship program around the world globally. And I'm part of that also for associate nation players in associate nation countries, because I knew, because we didn't have senior players, so it took us so much longer to learn the trade and learn things. And that's why I think I was really moved by when I saw you and Azima Dhanji on that U-Phone event when we met, because I do feel mentors play such an important role, and in our society, that's something we don't really talk about and don't really appreciate.
Has that changed, do you think, even within the men's cricket team? Are there mentors who are guiding the younger players
So this new management has got 5 different mentors now. They've which their only job is to mentor. So I don't know how effective that would be. Because some of them are busy doing other stuff also. But at least they have been put there, and there is a position being made. And I do feel that is extremely, extremely important. Men's cricket still has a lot of resource, a lot of senior players that have been there, but unless PCB kind of learn the communication part of stuff, because a lot of senior players, when they are almost about to end their career, the way they are treated, they don't ever want to go back to PCB, or they don't want to ever give back to the team in that way. I have not gone back to PCB also since I've retired 2020, but I am one-on-one, I have relationship with the cricketers. But unless we understand that, unless we are able to value our heroes or value the players who have contributed, then there's still a lot of knowledge that gets lost in between because those players are not interacting with the new generation.
What's your opinion of the fitness of our players? I mean, I love cricket, and whenever Pakistan plays, I punish myself by watching, and very often it's not that we don't know that sometimes they'll win and sometimes they won't. All of us have the expectation that they're going to play well. And win or lose, that's part of the game, right? But sometimes they just put up such a performance. I shouldn't be saying this because yesterday they did so well and won the game. But do you think it has to do with fitness? Do you think it is because we treat them like heroes and not like sportsmen as such? Do you think that's the reason, or is it how PCB treats them? What is the reason for it? Because you see discipline in the Australians, in the British, in many of even the Sri Lankans, you see a lot of discipline there. So what is it that is missing that we should be focused on?
I think it always has to be a holistic approach. There can never be one solution that will fix all the problems. I think it's the sporting culture, firstly. As a nation, we don't have a sporting culture, unfortunately. Most of our elite schools, if you say so, they are built in homes, in houses, and children do not experience being a part of a sports team or being on a sports field when they are growing up. So mostly the people we get are from backgrounds that are financially not very strong. So having the right nutrition, nowadays, it's such an expensive thing.
It is.
So unless they are selected in some kind of a team domestically or into the Pakistan team, it's almost impossible to have that nutrition that an elite sports athlete should be having. So one would be the resources, definitely the quality gyms, the quality recovery facilities with ice baths and massages and acupuncture, all the other things that go behind your nutrition with electrolytes and all those stuff. So a lot of things our athletes don't even know. And even if they know, they can't afford. So that is one part of the problem. The other is definitely the treatment of how we treat them, how we bring about awareness, and how the selection happens. Discipline can only come if everyone knows that the only way towards the team is my discipline, my performance, my fitness. But when other things get involved, then people start ignoring those things. So unfortunately, I think cricket is such a huge thing. Everyone is so interested that everyone thinks they have an opinion and their opinion is the best one. So the ex-cricketers or ex-coaches or ex-organizers, everyone is so invested. Okay, this person should be in the team. They are calling someone and they are calling someone. And because of that, it becomes it's such an inconsistent system.
So there's a lack of a system.
Yes.
Because if there was a system, then people would know that there's transparency. If I play well, if I'm fit, then I will make it to the team, otherwise I won't.
And there's saturation also. Like everyone who's growing up, mostly they want to be a cricketer. So we are a nation who is resilient. We have a lot of talent. So if other sports like hockey or squash or football, if the money goes there also, so people will be attracted into that sport also. So it's almost impossible to do justice if you have got one spot and you have got 50 players to select from. So this is what's happening in cricket, because there's saturation of talent and other fields are not developed.
I see. Okay, now let's go back to you, because cricket we can discuss forever and ever. So, when you became a professional cricketer and then you played well, when did you become a captain, and how was that different from being just a player on the team to now captaining a side?
I think I played as a player 4 years before I became the captain. To be honest, initially I felt no difference because I always thought it was my team and I was always vocal about we should do this, and other captains would get irritated by it. But that's who I was, because I just owned the team. And even after I left captaincy, I still played for another 3 years. And still, I had to really hold myself back because I was so emotionally involved in the team. I think I really enjoyed the leadership role, because you can set up a culture of a team. You can make a difference there. You can instill good values. Then you can develop people, which I love, because I think as a team sport, no matter how good you are individually, if your team is not good, you are nowhere. So I always say that, yes, we have beaten India in the World Cup. We have won 2 Asian golds. But for me as a leader, the biggest thing was when 8 of my players were in the top ICC ranking in the world, top 20. And I think that has given me the most satisfaction, that when you are able to build each other up together. So yeah, I loved being...
and how did it feel when you were at the top of the ICC rankings?
Yeah, that also
that must have been special.
That was very special. I think it was Malaysia. We were playing Australia, and I was number 4 before that series. So Australia is the number 1 team, and so I got 8 wickets in 3 games, and it was a flat track. It was very difficult to bowl, but I got the best players. And I was shopping. I was out there shopping for myself, getting some shoes, and I get a call from one of my colleagues in the team, and she said, "Do you know what has happened?" I said, "What? You have become the world number 1." I was like, I dropped all my shopping bags. I sat down. I was like, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah." So I think that was one dream that I didn't even dream of. Because when I saw, for example, from our neighbors, Sana Mir being world number 1 with Martina Hingis, it was not in singles that she was able to get there. It was in doubles that she achieved that feat. So I would always say, okay, in cricket, it's very difficult, because firstly, we don't get games with top teams. So unless you are playing better ranked teams, your rankings don't go up. And secondly, we don't get enough number of games. And thirdly, I mean, the training facility or everything is so different. So for me to be able to reach there, it was something, I was just paying attention to the process. I was just trying to do what I could do best for the team, and it just happened. And it broke so many barriers in my own mind, in the minds of the young girls who were taking up cricket. And I made a point that I kind of called on every corporate and every sponsor that you guys said, why should we invest in women's cricket or women's sport? This is what we can do. We can be the world number 1. And I think that is why it is so important that even now, if someone asks me why should we sponsor women's cricket or women's sports, so I have got a very strong answer for that. So
But have things changed? Did everybody start looking at women's cricket differently after that?
For a little while, I would say yes. But these are hardcore perceptions that need to be broken time and again. And the thing is, we were going on a very good direction. But unfortunately, some decision making within the organization was as such that they kind of dismantled that team that was doing really well. And now we are losing against Bangladesh, we are losing against other teams in women's cricket. And reason being, firstly, we got some senior players out before their time. And then the coaches who had some knowledge of women's cricket, we removed them also, because now women's cricket is doing well, so everyone wants to be a coach. Before, no one would notice. And then other teams around the world, like Bangladesh, like West Indies, like Associate Ireland, they are now injecting so much money, so much resource into the women's game, and we are sticking with the same old thing. Just for example, in the last year, the girls were not paid for 6 months. They played the World Cup in between also, because they were promised that their contracts are being increased by 3%. And after 300%, like
300%.
yeah, tripled.
Yeah.
And after 6 months of waiting, they have given them the same contracts to sign on. No increase in the contracts. And all of the girls would get equal amount of money, which maybe one of the top players is getting. So that's the equation. So unless you're putting enough money into the sport, it will be very difficult for just the players to compete. When we were competing, apart from 2 or 3 top nations, all other nations would have the same resources. So our competition was still less. Now when I see women's cricket, other teams' resources have gone really big, and we are still stuck somewhere that we were 5 years ago. So
how can we change that?
I think we have to lobby, we have to put pressure on PCB, we have to keep talking about this stuff. We need more leadership in the women's game. I think people who have worked in women's cricket, we can get foreign coaches for them. When it comes to women cricket, there's always budget constraints and all that stuff. So we generally, I really respect the local coaches also, but they come under pressure when there's a call from a big organization or something. But with the foreign coach, they understand the global competition, and then they can be more forceful with their decision making. So I think for 3 or 4 years, it's very, very important that women's cricket also get that kind of support that men's cricket is getting.
Okay, you then resigned as captain and went back to being a player on the team. Why did you do that before you had to?
There were, again, not only one reason, a lot of different reasons. Firstly, I had captain for 8 years, so it was a long time, and I thought maybe a different style of leadership would help, even though in those 8 years, I do feel I changed as a leader every year or every 2 years. But then the young people that I was developing, I could see that they were also ready to take leadership on. So that was another aspect. And the third was that I didn't want to leave a vacuum when I go, because I know that there's a huge difference in driving the car and being the passenger driver. So I really wanted to be there for the next captain for another 2 or 3 years. So whenever they get stuck, I'm right there for them. So that I didn't see in men's cricket a lot, and I thought that is something we are missing, because then when the captain leaves, there's a huge vacuum. All the knowledge, all the things that worked and not worked go away with that person. So I wanted to be there because I knew I still had cricket left in me. So I just thought that it would be good for the team.
That's a very responsible decision. And you're right. I haven't seen this happen in men's cricket at all. But you enjoyed the game and you went on to play for another 3 years or so, right?
Yes, I think I gave up captaincy 2017. Yes, fully. 2016 I gave up T20. 2017 I gave one day also, and then I played till end of 2019, early 2020. So 3 years.
And then how was the transition from playing as a player and then being a captain to now being a commentator? What was that like? And why did you make a decision to do that?
I actually didn't make a decision. It just happened. Yeah. Okay. My father always wanted to me, after leaving, he wanted me to do commentary. I was always interested in mentorship, more of a mentorship role rather than coaching. But the way I left cricket, it was quite painful. So I didn't want to go back to cricket initially. So I was in the hills with my parents, enjoying playing golf and just staying away from media and everything. So I think it was 9 or 10 months that I had totally isolated myself. And then I received a call because I think Wasim Akram was also part of the Karachi Kings, the PSL franchise, and he was doing commentary for Pakistan, Zimbabwe in Islamabad. So someone from PCB called me that he had to go and join the camp. So we just need you for one game. Can you just come? And before that,
I would have told them where to go.
No, but before that, I had done a workshop, commentary workshop, 5-6 months ago. I just thought I'll just keep my options open. So I'd already done that. So then I thought, okay, it's just one game, and it will just give me an idea whether I would like it or not, because I didn't want to commit to a 2-week or a 3-week stint, and if I don't like it, what do I do? So I thought it was just 2 hours away. Let's have a go at it. So I just went, I did that, and then there was a national T20 tournament happening right afterwards, and they said, would you like to do that also? So it was a 2-week thing, and I thought, okay, I'll try it out. So slowly, gradually, in that way,
you enjoyed it?
I've recently started enjoying it, to be honest. In the last 2-3 years, it was a daunting thing, because as a player, when the ball goes in the air, you are taught for 15-20 years to be calm and relaxed and be at ease. But as a commentator, when the ball goes in there, you have to make all this noise. So for me,
and jump up and down.
Yeah. So for me, it was so difficult, and I was always just go blank initially, and I was like, how? It's not my personality. I mean, I'm not a huge entertainer in that way. I'm generally a calm person in that way. So it is quite different coming out of my comfort zone. But what I've learned through commentary is, firstly, you get to talk cricket a lot with so many different cricketing minds. So that part I love. And then you get to travel the world. And the most important thing is that you become a stronger voice, and you can have an opinion on cricket, and you can share that opinion publicly. So in PCB, when I was opinionated, I would get penalized for it. Now I get paid for it. So I feel that's...
I tell you, life is so funny.
So I think that's a good transition for me in that way.
I was watching after yesterday's game, and then you talk to the players, and you talk about many of the different things that have happened during the game. It requires a lot of insight, and also you need to present the question in a way so that the players that you're talking to don't take it the wrong way, because sometimes the question is just meant for you to understand and for the audience to understand why something was done in a certain way. Is that difficult to do? Because I feel that you have to be very sensitive to who you are interviewing and who you're talking to.
Yeah, I think it is a very slippery slope when you stop playing and you come into the media and there are ratings and all that stuff. So it's very important to remember. For me, what's really helpful is that I was a player. So I knew how things feel when you're not doing well, or when you're doing well, when you have a bad patch, when people are talking things that have no truth in it, but just because you're having a bad time, people would associate everything with you. So I think that kind of really helps me when I'm interacting with players. And my main focus is to remain on the cricketing lines, understanding it as a sport rather than getting too personal about something. So I think that for me is the key to understand and connect the audience with the player through cricket, and leave everything else aside. I think that is something we can have more in sports journalism in Pakistan. I think that would be really helpful. And then once you start actually having a rapport with the players, then it becomes very natural. Then it's easier.
Yeah, then they expect you to be understanding of, why they didn't do a certain thing, why didn't they bat, why did they lose their wicket or drop the ball.
Yeah, I mean, and then also there has to be this balance of you have to ask the right questions for the country also.
Yeah.
Yes, you might have a personal relationship, and that is why I didn't do commentary on women's cricket for 2 years after I left. I've seen a lot of players coming back and doing commentary because you are angry at stuff and you are emotionally attached. So I intentionally told PCB that I'm only going to comment on men's cricket. For 2 years, I didn't do any commentary on women's cricket because you have just left and you think they should do this and you should, but the team has to go without you and they have to work their way without you, and it's very important that it's done without that part of criticism, because you, as a person, you can think, oh, I know better, this should happen or that should happen. So I wanted to also keep that emotional side out of it. So with men's cricket, I feel it's more easier for me because I'm not emotionally attached like that. With women's cricket, some of them came when I was the captain, and now they are into this captainship role, or they're senior players. So it's still difficult for me to criticize them sometimes, but then you have to do it if it's better for the country
and better for
in
the team
general.
as well.
Yeah.
What do you think we should be doing as a country to make sure that the talent that we have is utilized properly in cricket? Because I still feel that we're not doing as much as we should. Otherwise, we would be really up there. I mean, I know sometimes we win the championships and all of that, but it's always touch and go. And people who watch cricket like me, I can't play cricket, but I am so in love with cricket that I feel that my blood pressure goes up and down every time I'm following our team and watching a match. So what can we do to show more consistency like some of the other countries have done? Is there something we can do, work with the players, maybe some form of education, coaching?
I think, again, it has to be the holistic approach, like getting the systems better, connecting the domestic structure to the international structure in a manner that there's consistency in policy. You cannot have, if you are selecting players at domestic level without proper fitness, without proper performance, and then they will filter into the national side. It is not possible that you have a different policy at domestic and you will get a different result at international level. So I think at the grassroots level, the moral corruption or other kinds of corruption, that needs to be curtailed, and there has to be more transparency within the systems. And I think unless we have that merit on the grassroots, it will be very difficult to sustain that at international level.
What's next for Sana Mir? I know you're enjoying what you're doing now, but is there something along the road that you're thinking of doing that you might want to share?
I don't know. I mean, I don't believe in planning too much ahead. In that way, I'm quite spontaneous with my life. If something comes up, I have that option open. But when I retired, there were two things I did. One was the commentary course I did, and the other was I set up a company, sports company, with my name, and I've not done much with it. But now I really want to, in a manner that I can give back to athletes, not only women but men also. So now, after 4 or 5 years, I feel that now I can give some time to it, because when I left cricket, we didn't get paid really well in women's cricket. So my first thing was to have some financial stability.
Of course.
Because even as part of the team, my main focus was the team. So I didn't focus on my own future of if I go out, if the team outgrows me, what will happen to me? I never thought of that. My aim was that I want to build a team where I don't find a place for myself. And I did that. And after that, I didn't know where to go. So for the last 4 years, I think I've been building more my own brand. And now I do want to start giving back, hopefully. But I'm still searching for that one core thing that I would want to start with. There's too much on my canvas in my head that I want to do this, I want to do this. So just streaming that down and maybe doing something privately, because whatever I've said, but PCB has time and again asked me to come and be there for women's cricket, but I don't see myself working in PCB full time. I want to do something of my own where we can touch the life of athletes or upcoming athletes in a positive manner.
Okay, other than cricket, there are other things that you're passionate about. Can you share? One I know of because we met there and you're supporting this not-for-profit. Would you like to talk about some of the other things that you're passionate about other than the sport? Sport, of course, is a given.
Yeah, I think sport I also fell in love with, because it kind of brings people together in a very equal playing field. And I mean, justice is the basis of anything that I would fall in love with. And I think sports was one thing. Like, I grew up in an army cantonment, so whether you were a daughter or a son of a soldier or an officer or a general, cricket, when you're playing cricket, you are all one. It's all on your talent that you will be judged. And that's why I loved the sport. And with life also, any project that can bring people at an equal playing field or help someone to come up, I think that's something that gives me a lot of energy. And of course, children in our society are a segment that we have not really focused on. And Sahil, the Organization for Child Protection, they've been working for 25 years on abuse on children. I think that's why I just thought that I would want to, any extra time I have, I can give there also, because I do feel the numbers are horrific. Like, when you talk about abuse against children in Pakistan, we talk about early marriages, and then we question why, as adults, these people behave a certain way. If they were not treated right as children, it's very less we can do when they are grown up. So it's better we start doing something for them there. So I think, yes, child protection, I spoke up about that within PCB, in sport also. That should be a must in schools, in colleges. I think that's something we can add in our society. And then anything that empowers women, I do feel that's why we were together on that event also, because I do feel financial independence brings you at power, because even like in a country where religion plays such an important role, God gave us a choice.
Yeah.
He has given us a choice, but people kind of take it away from you. And once you are financially independent, I think then that choice comes back to you. Most cases, if again you are not the one who's spending, and then again you might not have the choice. With a lot of women face that also, but at least that's the start where you can feel empowered, when you have some power, some agency over your own decision making. Then I think projects like those, really, I love that. And then I love going on trails. I love being outdoor, pedal or Pilates or whatever workouts, different workouts. I love that. And spending time with my friends and family, that's something I've missed when I was playing. So whenever I get that opportunity, I make sure I connect and stay connected with people.
You're very close to your family, right?
Yes, I'm very close to my parents, my siblings, and then I've got some really good network of friends, close network of friends that keep me really strong because of that.
That's very important. I think that's something that I have as well, and I feel totally blessed. Because that
how important, I want to ask you that for women in Pakistan, I've not seen a lot of women building that network of support around them. So how important that was for you?
I think it's extremely important, whether you are doing well or whether you're going through challenging times, it's these friends that are always there for you. I know because I had cancer, and it was my group of friends that got me through that phase. And I don't think I could have survived without them. And even when you're sort of celebrating something, you're doing something, and you want somebody in your corner cheering you on.
Or witnessing that.
Yeah, and so you miss that so I'm very blessed. I have 5 or 6 very close friends, and I've had them since my school days, and they continue to be part of my life. And we are all in different verticals. Like none of them are in tech or in the startup ecosystem. One was a judge and is now practicing law. One is in the journalism and the social space. So you know that they'll be there. They might not understand what your exact problem is, but they're there to say, okay, what do you need?
Yeah.
And I think that's extremely important, not just for women, but also for men. And men never admit to the fact that they're vulnerable or they need help. So I have a young man who came in the other day, and he said, how do I talk to my friends about this? This is not what guys talk to each other about. Why not? If it's bothering you, he could
100%.
open up to me, but he can't open up to people his age who have been his friends for years. So I think I think we don't give it the importance that it deserves. So I'm
Absolutely.
glad that you have that, I have that. Many of the people I know understand the importance of friendship. So whether you're playing cricket, whether you're running a company, it's all about having people in your corner.
Absolutely, who believe in you when sometimes you are not believing in yourself. And I think friends do that for you very unconditionally.
That's true. Thanks, Sana. I
Thank
think
you.
I've taken up a lot of your time, but I'm so glad we had this conversation.
Yeah, I'm also very glad to be
And
here.
let's keep in touch, because I
Absolutely.
think we have a lot of things that we share in terms of what we want to do in life, and anything I can support.
Yeah, you
ever.
have been very supportive, and you're a generous person, and
Thank you.
it's a pleasure to know you.
Thank you. So that was Sana Mir. I think it's the first of many more conversations we may have with her, but I thought we'd get started. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and send in some questions if you have any that I forgot to ask, because I just sort of went from question to question without actually thinking about it. Tune in again for the next Candid Conversation.